Good morning. Welcome to the Premium Public Video Forecast discussion for Friday, July 28th, 2023. We have a lot to talk about. First, we'll start with the tropics. As you know, premium members know, we've been watching the tropics quite a bit, and I've been making my case why it's going to remain relatively quiet. We are watching one disturbance here that is showing up right here that the NHC is watching very carefully. And the idea is that it could develop into something to the northwest of the Lesser Antilles and the Greater Antilles as it's moving around the Western Atlantic Ridge, which will be continuing to expand. By the time it gets to this point here, though, it's going to be contracting again as we start to get a deep trough developing over the eastern United States by this weekend, which we'll talk about in just a moment with the threat for thunderstorms. But that's really important because what that does is that it increases the threat for shear, and we already have plenty of dry, dusty air in place. So, yeah, there's a window for some development here, but nothing significant. Okay, so we'll keep an eye on that and see how that evolves. You can see that the NHC is monitoring this system very carefully. We have another disturbance down here, 10%. 0%. So this is the highest one. In the next 7 days, a 60% chance of developing, and that is showing up on the European guidance, but it's about 1,016 millibars. So this looks like a tropical depression, maybe a weak tropical storm at most, lifting through the central Atlantic. No threat to the United States in any way, shape, or form. But that is the disturbance that is showing up in the model guidance. That is this, and so far it hasn't produced much of a low-level circulation. And just a reminder, about 10 days ago we had a high potential for development with a disturbance that I was not very enthusiastic about, and as I suspected, the shear and the dry air really limited development. I would not be surprised if the same thing happens here again, as well as right now we have a lot of dry air and shear, and if anything, that is becoming stronger as our SOI values continue to remain in a negative state and falling into that negative state, which is enhancing El Nino. Now, with El Nino developing, we will continue to see amplification of the polar and subtropical jet stream. Right now, we are in one of the few relaxation time periods, which is typical for any 500 millibar pattern. No matter what time of year, there's always an amplification period and a relaxation period. You don't remain constantly amplified without some breaks here and there as the atmosphere tries to adjust and redevelop and shift. So when I take a look at this data here, again, plenty of support once again for us to go back to our previous pattern with tropical air masses, active weather patterns, temperatures in the 80s and 90s for the most part. We will have a short period where we're in the 70s and 80s for, Sunday. And that's because of the location of our trough. You see our trough axis for this weekend shifts off the coast. And so what that allows us to do is transport more polar air. And we see that again towards the middle and end of the week. But as we move forward, and as you can see, with the ensemble guidance here, your trough axis is generally to the west of us. Your Western Atlantic Ridge is out here. Your tropical moisture surging northward. So this is an active weather pattern. This is one that's going to keep us on our toes. And it's because the polar jet stream here is amplified. The subtropical jet stream here is amplified. And they're interacting over the eastern United States. And that's why what we've seen for most part for most of the summer, and likely will continue to see once we get through this short relaxation time period. Now, when we take a look at the observations, let's pull that up here. Muggy. Temperatures range from the mid to upper 70s over the northern interior, upper 70s to lower 80s in your suburbs, lower 80s in your urban areas. The warmest spot is, of course, down in southern New Jersey around Wildwood, where we're at 83 degrees already. That feels like, because of the humidity, in the lower to mid 90s. So it's the morning hours and it already feels pretty bad out there. As temperatures rise, we're going to continue to move into an environment where that heat index is going to be pushing around 100 degrees, if not over 100 degrees. Now, this is our surface mapping radar from WeatherTap. And you can see our cold front just kind of stalled out here, not really doing all that much. You have a couple of troughs hanging around here. And then we have this disturbance right here. We can learn a lot by studying the water vapor satellite picture and the upper level and mid-level winds. So let's dive into that. So first of all, we have our mid-level winds. And what we can learn here is that because of the retraction of the polar jet stream, you can see the interaction between the ridge that's been in the plains and the ridge over the western Atlantic, and that circulation of deep tropical moisture rotating around our ridge, coming up the East Coast and coming through Texas and heading towards our neck of the woods. So you can see at the mid-levels where we're getting the heat getting transported into us and the moisture transporting into us in this pattern at 850 millibars. At 500 millibars, we can see the influence of that relaxation I was talking about. There's our jet streak up here. And so there is our rising 500 millibar heights with all sorts of high pressure systems and little weak troughs hanging around here, okay? So that's the setup right now. And because of the convergence and confluence, which I'll show in the water vapor satellite picture in just a moment, that's going to enhance sinking air and really allow our temperatures to spike up into the upper 80s to upper 90s throughout the region. But this feature right here and this feature right here are going to interact and set up a trough once again to build over the eastern United States. So basically what's going to happen is that this whole setup here is going to buckle, and we can start to see that process right up here. As this buckles and amplifies this ridge, this trough digs down along the west coast. It allows this ridge to build northward and allows this area of an upper level low / remnant polar vortex diving south and pushing south, and that transports much cooler air into our region. It also opens up the threat for strong to severe thunderstorms. Now in the water vapor satellite picture, we can really see this whole process in play live. See this area right here? This is sinking air. Sinking air warms, so it's already going to enhance an environment where you have 850 millibar temperatures around 20 degrees Celsius. So what that means in plain speak is that warm air, sinking air, is going to warm hot air already in place, which allows us to get up into the 90s. This process is what has been constantly happening over the plains, which is why we've been getting these enhanced high temperatures and just impressive high temperatures and record-breaking temperatures over the desert Southwest, southern plains, and portions of the Mississippi River Valley. So we have that process for a short time here. This shortwave right here will be heading towards us, and it's going to be the indicator for this upper level low to dig south. And so while that's happening, it's actually going to be enhanced further by the transport of a polar air mass pushing south as well. So all these factors open up the potential for scattered showers and thunderstorms tomorrow. Actually, really beginning late tonight and continuing on through tomorrow. But in the meantime, for today, it's going to be pretty quiet because of this feature right here. So we've seen the upper level winds. We can see what's going on in the polar jet stream. You can see already on our visible satellite picture, our low clouds and fog are going to start to give way and break away. And you can see the clearing skies as a result. And what that does is that it allows our moisture to rebound in the mid levels of the atmosphere and supports the development of instability. You can see our Cape values pushing up to around 3,000 joules per kilogram down towards the Delmarva Peninsula. That's pretty impressive. And our surface base index right now, because of that sinking air, notice where the lifting index is pretty weak. That's also where we saw the sinking air on the water vapor satellite picture, because air is sinking and suppressing it. But then you can see where our potential lies here. So that sinking air gives way, our instability rebounds by this evening and then continues on through tonight. And then this shading here is what we call sin. This basically acts like a cap, right? So if you shake up your soda bottle, right, but you have the cap on, the soda doesn't explode, right? But then if you have a mechanical forcing, i.e. a trough, turn that cap, boom, your soda explodes. Well, that's essentially what we have here right now with our environment. So we combine all those factors, all our observations, and now we take a look at the model guidance. So for today, not much lifting going on, nothing really to turn to cap. We'll have hot and humid conditions. I can't rule out an isolated thunderstorm, mostly because of like sea breeze fronts and old outflow boundaries could instigate an isolated thunderstorm. But for the most part, the primary story will be the hot temperatures, with us moving up into the upper 80s to lower 90s over the interior and along the coast, mid to upper 90s in the Delaware River Valley, possibly touching 100 in a few isolated locations, and the heat index definitely over 100 degrees today. Then tonight, you can start to see the short waves approaching. You can see that the lifting is approaching the region, and our trough is starting to amplify, dig, become stronger. So as we go on through the overnight periods and into tomorrow, a series of short waves will move through. But here's the important thing. Take a look at the upper level winds during this time period, and you can see your jet streak in the polar jet stream is shifted to the north and east of us. But more importantly, the 850 millibar jet stream tomorrow is to the east of us. So what does this tell me? This tells me the best potential for vertical wind shear is more likely towards New England than it is towards the northern mid-Atlantic. This doesn't mean I'm 100% ruling out the potential for severe thunderstorms or isolated tornadoes in these thunderstorms, but the environment is far more favorable towards southern New England, towards Massachusetts, Rhode Island, those locations, rather than New Jersey and Pennsylvania and southeastern New York. So we'll continue to keep an eye on that evolution, but I think the theme for tomorrow is going to be waves of showers and thunderstorms, not necessarily severe, but with precipitable water values very much elevated to around 2 inches. There's going to be some areas of heavy downpours, flash flooding, and some rainfall rates at times pushing over 1 inch in this environment. While that's all happening, look at our 850 millibar temperatures pressing south, right? So that by Sunday, it is beautiful with our trough digging as described. You can see that very nicely. And the upper level low, basically over Quebec, which opens up a west-northwesterly flow over the atmosphere and much lower humidity. One caveat, one little warning though, we're going to have to watch out to see if any of that Canadian smoke becomes an issue, which we'll be watching as we move on through the weekend, as that will be a threat for Sunday and Monday. So again, we'll keep an eye on that and see how that evolves. But for the most part, then we move back into our pattern where we just get a lot of weak short waves passing through, and our temperatures average near to slightly below normal for highs, near slightly above normal for lows, with plenty of moisture in the atmosphere. Taking a look at our HRR for today, it is pretty quiet, not much going on until we get late in the evening. There's our first short waves coming through. There is that mechanical forcing opening up the soda bottle, and showers and thunderstorms developing as a result. Most likely the most significant impact being the heavy downpours. The same thing shown up here on the NAM guidance. And again, there is potential here for some pretty strong thunderstorms, but not everyone's going to see them. That's why we're calling them scattered. And I don't see this as being a, impressive, historic, severe event like some people were asking me about on social media. I don't see any support for that, but certainly a stormy afternoon for sure on Saturday. And that's also showing up pretty nicely here on the European guidance as well. So let's dive into the rest of this forecast. Again, for today, hazy, hot, and humid. Look for temperatures in the upper 80s to lower 90s over the interior and along the coast. Mid to upper 90s in the Delaware River Valley. A few locations could even touch 100 degrees with a heat index over 100 degrees in many locations. For tonight into tomorrow, look for the development of widely scattered showers and thunderstorms, areas of fog. Low temperatures ranging from the lower to mid 70s over the northern interior, mid to upper 70s along the coast and in urban areas. Tomorrow afternoon, scattered showers and thunderstorms, a bit of a stormy day with temperatures ranging from the lower to mid 80s over the northern interior, mid to upper 80s along the coast, and lower to mid 90s in the Delaware River Valley. Those mid 90s are dependent on the location of the thunderstorms and whether or not they linger over the region. around the Delaware River Valley, so it could end up a bit cooler if you get more thunderstorms there in the mid-afternoon hours. On Saturday night, that cold front drops south with showers and thunderstorms. Temperatures will fall off into the lower to mid 60s over the northern interior, upper 60s to lower 70s along the coast. And by the time you wake up on Sunday morning through Sunday afternoon, I'm expecting scattered cloud cover. There could be a lingering isolated shower, but I think that's a really low threat. The big story is going to be the drop in humidity and the drop in temperatures, as high temperatures will range from the mid to upper 70s over the northern interior, lower to mid 80s along the coast, and lower to mid 80s in the Delaware River Valley. On Monday, a weak trough passes through with a few widely scattered showers. Some of the showers could produce a brief heavy downpour. Look for low temperatures to range from the mid to upper 50s over the northern interior, lower to mid 60s along the coast. High temperatures will range from the mid to upper 70s over the northern interior, mid to upper 70s along the coast, and lower to mid 80s in the Delaware River Valley. On Tuesday, again, a series of weak troughs passing through with an isolated shower here and there, but nothing really significant. Otherwise, scattered cloud cover, low temperatures in the mid to upper 50s over the interior, lower to mid 60s along the coast, high temperatures in the mid to upper 70s over the interior, mid to upper 70s along the coast, and lower to mid 80s in the Delaware River Valley. On Wednesday, rinse and repeat. A trough could produce an isolated shower. Other than that, scattered cloud cover is expected, with low temperatures ranging from the lower to mid 50s over the northern interior, upper 50s to mid 60s in your suburbs, and mid 60s in your urban areas. High temperatures will range from the mid to upper 70s over the northern interior, upper 70s to lower 80s along the coast, and lower to mid 80s in the Delaware River Valley. Again, like I said, much cooler. We lose that heat because the pattern is no longer relaxed. On Thursday, scattered cloud cover is expected. A cold front will be approaching from the west, so there's a threat for an isolated shower or thunderstorm. Low temperatures will range from the mid to upper 50s over the northern interior, lower to mid 60s along the coast. High temperatures will range quite a bit from the lower to mid 80s over the northern interior, mid 80s to lower 90s in the Delaware River Valley, lower to mid 80s along the coast, and upper 70s to lower 80s on Long Island. And then on Friday, another strong cold front will be moving through widespread showers and thunderstorms. Again, a few of them could be severe, with low temperatures ranging from the mid to upper 60s over the northern interior, lower 70s along the coast. High temperatures will range from the mid to upper 80s over the northern interior, upper 80s to mid 90s in the Delaware River Valley, lower to mid 80s on the Jersey Shore, and upper 70s to lower 80s on Long Island and the Connecticut coast. That is your forecast discussion for today. Have a wonderful day, and as always, stay safe out there.